Our next speaker is Jen Uschold. Jen is a professional in a number of different capacities, including she's a licensed physical therapist and she works with people on pain. The reason that a financial planner is interested in having a pain specialist speak to her clients and so on is really because this comes up all the time. I myself have experienced it when many years ago I was in a car accident and I was in physical therapy for a couple of years, and over the years I've found different techniques like yoga and so on that have been helpful to me in managing pain and maintaining a healthy lifestyle. But I've seen a number of situations where folks have saved financially really well but are living in pain, and that pain therefore is reducing their quality of life. So I think this is a really timely and probably evergreen topic. So I'm really excited to have Jen. And I'm going to let her introduce herself and all her credentials and such, because I cannot do them justice. Jen?
Well, thank you, Michelle. And I really appreciate your statement that this is an evergreen topic, because pain has been around for millennia. And if I have anything to say about it, we're going to make a shift in that in future centuries and millennia. I am Jen Uschold. I'm a physical therapist. I'm also a health and wellness coach and a fellow of pain science. That's kind of the boring part. You'll see how it all integrates as we go through the presentation today. So once again, thank you, Michelle. So my first crazy question for you is, do you like cookies, or are you sick of them after the holiday season?
I wish I could say I was sick of them after the holiday season. My daughter is quite the baker, so I do like specific cookies. Chocolate chip.
Chocolate chip? That actually is a very popular cookie. I too still like them despite the holiday season being behind us. Mm-hmm. There's just really something about a warm cookie. It's comforting, maybe for some of us nostalgia. No matter what's going on in life, it seems like cookies can bring a little bit of joy. Now, unless you're an avid baker like Michelle's daughter, or I'm a pretty big baker, I wonder, have you ever really thought about what actually goes into making that amazing cookie? And here's what's important. It's never one thing. It's a blend of ingredients, timing, and definitely a lot of people would say love goes into making a great cookie. And as it turns out, pain, all aspects of pain, physical, emotional, even financial, is a lot like that cookie. So once again, welcome to Pain, Health, and Wealth, the view from a cookie. Now, I did mention it's not one thing or one cause. There is no single lightning bolt moment that gets us into pain or out of it. So I want to start this morning, today, busting a few myths. And even if you've had an injury, a surgery, or an accident, that is but one moment in your story. So there we go. One myth busted. It's never one thing. Heading into a science fun fact, did you know, Michelle, that your brain processes 11 million, I said that right, 11 million pieces of information every second, and its job is to protect you. Is that new for you? Michelle, is that a new fact for you?
That is new information for me, Jen. I have to say that as a working mother, sometimes I feel like maybe it's, 50 million pieces of information, but yes, 11 million makes sense.
I can see that for sure. And so the point of me sharing that is that it is good to problem solve, and at the same time to recognize that we are never going to know all of the pieces that have created a pain or a stressful transition or financial experience. Rather, let's disempower pain through knowledge and using practical strategies. So by the way, Michelle, you already told us, but have you ever had pain? A simple yes or no. Excellent. This is great because now we can bust another myth. All pain is real. Pain scientists have never, ever scanned fake pain. And no matter what the fancy scans say, all pain is real. And that's really important to remember as we're going through this today. I also want you to remember that I mentioned earlier that pain is a universal human experience, and we each have a unique pain story. So we're going back to 2022 for a moment. I'm standing in a conference room. The fluorescent lights are bright and buzzing, and the tension is thick. I look across the table, stand up, look at my kid's dad straight in the eye, reach out, and offer a firm handshake and say, we can do this. Steady, neutral, and full of intention. In that moment, I'm not just negotiating a divorce. I'm choosing how it is that I want to show up, even with the pain and history between us. Here's the truth. That moment in the conference room didn't define my story. It didn't magically change everything. And again, if you're waiting for that lightning bolt moment to change your pain or your transition story or your health story, today I want to offer something different. Pain, healing, and transitions, they're not defined by a single moment. Rather, built from many moments, big and small, over time. My journey with pain started decades before that handshake. In 1990, I developed really odd pain in my right knee. It led to a surgery, which I'll tell you was completely useless. This pain came and went for decades. Then, in the summer of 2021, life threw a new set of challenges at me. My middle child was getting ready to start college in Spain when his father suddenly backed out of taking him. I was overwhelmed with devastation for my son, overwhelmed with the stress of now planning an international trip during COVID, and really heartbreak for all of my kids because they were all going through unique challenges. And this is when the knee pain came roaring back. I was limping, struggling to exercise simple everyday things. Do you ever have pain interfere with what you need and want to do each day? Even stairs and driving became a challenge. Now the good news is, despite that chaos, I did get that trip planned. Unfortunately, 2 days before the trip, I realized I ordered the wrong COVID test. So I had another breakdown in my car outside CVS because, remember, we couldn't even go in the store. So luckily, that CVS employee was my guardian angel because somehow I got clearance to fly. On this same day, I lost my credit card and I got rear-ended. Probably no surprise, my knee pain continued. My first glimpse of relief, that was when we got through security at the airport. Is this a coincidence? It's not, because stress and pain are intimately connected. Then I discovered our Airbnb was on the 3rd floor. Stairs were agony, and I had to lift my leg in and out of bed because it was just too painful to move on my own. So there we are in Spain. I'm watching my kids run up and down the stairs, no problem, and I'm just struggling to keep up. And I realized I do have a choice. I can let the stress and pain impact all of us, or I could practice what I teach, what I know, and some of that we're going to cover today. What's most important is it wasn't a single aha moment, rather a series of small decisions. I didn't use pain medication. I didn't seek any scans. Because of the knowledge I have, I knew it wasn't warranted. And sure, sometimes it is. I also reached out for support, both personal and professional, because navigating pain and big life changes is not a solo journey. And in the mess, I was seeking moments of joy. The best gift of this unplanned trip to Spain was that I got to be with all 3 of my children together for the first time in nearly 2 years. And I wanted to share this picture of us, our first day in Spain. By the end of that trip, I was able to lift my leg in and out of bed, no problem, and I was able to keep up with my kids on the stairs. Okay, so now the story doesn't quite end there. A few months later, after 2 failed mediations in my divorce, I found my place again in this place of desperation. We decided to try a retired judge, you can do that in some states, to avoid court. And this time, I used the same strategies I use with my pain and coaching clients every day, and the same strategies I used for my knee, and I overhauled my preparation. Last time, the previous 2 mediations, I woke up absolutely panicked and anxious and overwhelmed. Oddly, this time, I woke up grounded and even a little excited. Now, the night before, I had this bold idea, and I wasn't sure if I would follow through or not. That morning in the conference room, Just before we split into separate rooms, the judge asked, "Is there anything else?" This is when I stood up, made eye contact with my kid's dad, shook his hand firmly, and said, "We can do this." This was a moment of courage and strength that I hadn't had before. Now, later that day, things weren't going so great, and I received an exceptionally poor offer, and it looked like we weren't going to finish that day. However, I was ready because I had prepared. I had prepared for the worst case scenario. I knew the mapping of that law office. I knew the entrances, the exits, the restrooms, and I even created a photo album on my phone called Compassion and Power. I did this so that I could practice looking at pictures of my kid's dad and not feel fear. So in this moment, I was grounded, and I told the judge and my lawyer, this is the hill he wants to die on. Okay, I will respectfully walk out. By 5:30, I had a signed agreement. So here's what I've learned, both in my body and my life. Pain, whether it's your knee, your heart, or your bank account, it doesn't come from a single source. It's a result of many inputs, stressors, beliefs, environments, and even the stories we tell ourselves about what is or isn't possible. And how about healing? Same thing is true. It's not a single moment either. It's a messy, non-linear process that takes time. Sometimes the best next thing you can do is take one tiny step. And sometimes that tiny step is staying right where you are for a moment. And that's okay. I share this because so many of us, especially in times of transition, whether it's pain, retirement, or loss, we are searching for one answer, one magic fix. Truth is, just like baking that amazing cookie, it's never one thing. It's about understanding all of the ingredients, the way they interact, so that we can create our own amazing cookie. So I've got something to share with you here. So I'd like to introduce you to this. This is called the mature organism model. Settle in. We're going to dive into some physiology and neurology today. What do you think? Okay, I get it. That's not cool. We are not going to dive into neurology and physiology today. Rather, let's talk about cookies. Michelle, I think you said your favorite cookie is chocolate chip.
Absolutely.
Do you have other favorite cookies?
It would be probably double chocolate chip or oatmeal chocolate chip or something like that. It's
My mom made a
I'm a big chocoholic, which is, could be a problem.
My mom made a great oatmeal chocolate chip cookie. I think those are both fine choices. Okay,
If you got the recipe, please share.
You know what? Remind me, send me an email later, and I will do that.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
What are some ingredients? Let's just go back and forth. What's one ingredient of an amazing chocolate chip cookie?
Double the normal number of chocolate chips would be.
Double the chips. We do need butter. What else do we need?
Flour,
vanilla.
Yeah, I don't know. Do we need vanilla essence?
Yeah.
So eggs.
So the point is we need all of these things. It's not one thing that's going to make that cookie amazing. Now, also, we need unique and special ingredients. The special ingredient for Michelle, everyone, is doubling the chocolate chips. We all know that now. And sometimes people like cranberries in their cookies. Some people like nuts. And you know what? It's all okay. So, as you might expect, I have a silly little cookie story for you. My former mother-in-law made amazing chocolate chip cookies. Now, I'm a good baker, I'm a good cook, but the chocolate chip cookie has eluded me, and I don't know why. So she came to visit one time, and I thought, I'm going to figure this out. I watched her, I studied, and of course, her cookies were phenomenal. So then she watched me. She approved of everything I did. Same recipe, same ingredients, all of it. My cookies? Nah. So the point here is, remember, we don't always know. The brain processes 11 million pieces of information every second. But what we can do is alter our ingredients and the processing so that we can change our cookie output. And you know what? I'm still working on that chocolate chip cookie. All right, so what if we spend a little time looking more closely at the painful cookie? There are 3 broad areas that we're going to address: inputs, processing, and outputs. Let's start with the inputs. For our actual cookie, not so great inputs might be rotten eggs, or flour with bugs in it, gross, or maybe vegan butter. Nah, I'm just kidding on that one. I've made it with vegan butter and they turn out just fine. And when it comes to people experiencing chronic pain, some of the painful inputs are the health of our tissues. What is our environment like? What is the state of relationships? Finances can be a big, challenging input. Aging parents, are you tracking the NASDAQ and the Dow every 10 or 15 minutes? Now, it's important to note that these inputs impact the next phase. So let's see what's next. What's next is our processing. For our actual cookie, the processing is the oven temperature, the shelf that you choose to bake the cookie on, and even things such as altitude and humidity can impact how that cookie is processed. And when it comes to chronic pain, our beliefs impact pain. Our experiences, even culture, impacts pain. Consider for a moment, how did your parents treat you when you fell and hurt your knee? Parents respond differently to children, and the children feed off the parents' response. And so again, it's information to inform you and make a decision if you want to change something. And then the last area we have is the outputs. And the output for our cookie is a burnt cookie, a raw cookie, or Michelle, that fateful last cookie of the batch that only has 1 chocolate chip. That's not a great cookie. And when it comes to outputs in our bodies and our minds and our health, it can be pain. It can also be burnout, fibromyalgia, depression or anxiety, irritable bowel syndrome, insomnia, and even more. So here's the deal. These crappy ingredients, they have a cumulative effect over time. There are costs associated with this. Now, the great news is that it is never too late to change. We can always change our inputs. We can always work on challenging beliefs and creating new experiences to shift the outputs. This is the beauty of neuroplasticity. Your brain can change and create new circuitry. Another fun fact for you, your brain circuitry replaces itself every 3 weeks. This is great because it puts you in the driver's seat of the change you choose. And all of this leads to new outputs. And those new outputs can be less pain, easier transitions, more wealth, and of course, the yummy cookie. Now, what's also true is there are things we cannot choose. We cannot choose whether we age or not. However, you do get to choose how you age. There are some life transitions we cannot change. Emptiness, loss of a spouse or a partner. You do get to choose how you navigate it. I have yet to find someone who chose chronic pain. However, you and they can learn options to navigate it and change it. When you see just how much choice you have, you get to decide what's the best next step for you and your next chapter, whether it is pain or a life transition. So how do we do this? We do this with the Empower You framework. The E stands for education. Michelle, have you heard of this phrase, no pain, no gain?
Yes, definitely.
You already know this, but I am not a fan. How about when we connote pain, we connote gain? Well, how is it that we do this? We do this through stories and metaphors. We have more than 24 meta-analyses and systematic reviews, the highest levels of research, telling us that when people understand pain, they have less pain. So Michelle, I'd like to take you through the alarm story. So I'm curious, if you were to step on a rusty nail with a bare foot today, would you want to know you've stepped on a rusty nail?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Why do you
Is that unusual? Well, I mean, not to get too technical, but I believe that a rusty nail could lead to tetanus. So I think that I would want to get checked out medically, make sure that, I mean, I've had a tetanus shot, I believe. So, I think that should be okay. But still, I don't know what I'm supposed to do. So I'd want to get it checked out and mitigate, whatever that nasty rusty nail had. Plus, I mean, it's not a natural state to have a rusty nail in your foot. So that's another reason I would want to know.
I would agree. So tetanus is a very good reason. And even if it wasn't a rusty nail, you want to get it out. You want to check for other nails in the area. So in this moment, I'm hoping that you can appreciate that pain is protection. So now I promise no heavy science, but I'm going to give you this super brief introduction to your nervous system. It is made up of your brain, your spinal cord, and 400 nerves. You and everyone in the audience, just consider in your mind, what is 5 miles? What city or town from where you grew up? Because we have 45 miles of nerves, those 400 nerves, and they're connected end to end like one big crazy highway. So now we're going to go back to the nail. When you step on that nail, Michelle, it is not yet pain because we do not have pain nerves, nor do we have pain sensors. What we have are danger sensors. And if they cross a particular threshold, that is when you'll have pain. Michelle, do you think your foot might be sore for a few days after you step on a rusty nail or even a not rusty nail?
Yes.
Yes. And when you feel that soreness, it's not additional tissue damage. It's your nervous system doing its job of getting back to baseline. Here's our challenge. About 1 in 4 people in the United States, it doesn't get back to baseline. It stays highly sensitive. Another way to describe this is to think about a house alarm. I think, Michelle, if I threw a brick through your front window, would you want your house alarm to go off?
Yes.
Great.
I also would want to make sure that I got rid of you.
Thank you. I promise I will not be throwing any bricks. I don't even know where you live. Okay. So now, what if somebody at ADT or even in your house altered the sensitivity of the alarm and a leaf hit your window and your house alarm went off? Michelle, is your house okay?
Yeah, it's okay, but it would be extremely annoying. So that's way too sensitive.
Your house is okay, and we get to choose whether or not we're annoyed. We can choose to be annoyed, or we can choose to get curious about how do we change the sensitivity of the alarm. Mm-hmm. And so this is a question I ask my clients, and I'll ask everyone watching, is it possible that your house, your body is okay, and we need to focus on the sensitivity of the alarm? And it starts with education. Moving on in our Empower You framework is the M, and the M stands for motion is lotion. I hope that you remember that there are 400 nerves, and those 400 nerves love blood flow and movement. And when we get the blood moving and pumping, it literally calms them down, making it more likely that you're going to respond to a leaf, more likely to respond to a brick rather than a leaf. Now, I'm going to invite Michelle, who doesn't know I'm asking her to do this, and everyone who is watching to stand up with me so we can get a little bit of movement. You can't see my head, but that's okay. So while Michelle's getting ready and I threw this, little dart her way, hoping she'll catch it, I also do improv, and one of our improv warm-ups is called Crazy Threes. So we're going to do Crazy Threes together, and here's what it looks like. You're going to just punch one hand into the air 3 times, other hand, one leg, other leg. We'll do that twice, then we'll do that once, and then together we'll clap and say pain less cookie. All right, are we ready, Michelle?
I think so, but you're going to have to repeat the instructions. But go ahead.
Along. We'll do it together.
Okay.
1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2. 1, 2. 1, 2. 1, 2. 1, 1, 1, 1. Less cookie. All right. That's it. I promise I won't make you stand up anymore. All right. So what was that like? It doesn't actually take much to really get that nervous system going. All right, so that is the end in our framework. And now we have one more. We have to look at the P. And the P is powering down your nervous system. There are 9 parts of your brain that participate in every pain experience, and it's unique for each person. And broadly, the left side of your brain is your survival brain, and the right side is your thriving brain. When we are experiencing pain, navigating significant stress and life transition, or oh boy, looking at what happened when the Dow dropped 500 points, we are using more structures in that survival side. We have dozens of ways to calm the nervous system down, and one of them is doing mental fitness reps. So I'm going to invite us to do some of these together so that we can shift from left to right. So Michelle, if you would like to join me in this, you can. I'm going to invite you to just close your eyes and feel the weight of your body in your seat and the weight of your feet on the ground. And as we go through this, if you have a thought or an emotion that comes in, it's okay. Just come back to the sensation that we are working on. We're now going to move to sound. Listen for the furthest sound that you can hear in your environment. And now listen for the closest sound. Can you hear your own breathing? Can you hear the sound of silence? It's described as a light buzz. It's always present and often muted. Now taking 2 fingers and rub them together with such light intention that you can feel the ridges on each fingertip. And now taking all of the fingers on one hand, rub them lightly down the fingers and palm of your other hand, feeling all of those sensations. And then repeat on the other side. If a thought or an emotion comes into your mind, it's okay. Come back to the sensation. Now place one hand on your chest or stomach and simply feel the rise and fall of your chest or stomach while you are breathing. And when you're ready, open your eyes. Is there anything you'd be willing to share with us about what that was like, Michelle?
Well, I find it very grounding, calming. It actually takes me back to a professional meeting I had relatively recently where it was fine, amicable, but the 2 parties were not on the same page, and one of the attorneys actually started out with a grounding exercise. And I just found that to be so calming for everyone, because even though I wasn't stressed about it, it still was like, let's all get back onto the same page. So right now, my feeling is like, feel a little bit more centered than I did a few minutes ago. Beautiful. And that was not very time intensive.
I love that. Yes, I like that you mentioned time intensive because it really doesn't take much. And, sometimes we need to do more depending on what our fitness goal is, right? We have to run more if we want to run a marathon rather than a 5K. And also, it's very cool because if we could do an fMRI on our brains, we would see that the nervous system and the brain areas are quieting. So it's really very exciting. And honestly, we had a small tech issue before we started, and I requested kindly of Michelle to go off camera for a couple minutes. That is exactly what I did, I did a couple minutes of mental fitness rep to prep myself for this. We are now at the Empower You review slide. The E is education. Remember that when you understand pain, it starts to ease pain. And it's so great because we know this through research and brain scans. What's really exciting is that we have research that tells us that when people understand pain, it eases their pain better than some very common pain medications. And the next one, motion is lotion. Movement simply improves blood flow, which eases the sensitivity of the nerves. And then our last one is powering down your nervous system, learning how to shift from the stress parts of our brain, from our survival brain, to the calm and focused part, our thriving brain, where we can navigate all of these things much more easily. I'd like to remind you that all pain is real, and all pain is physical and emotional. That's a very common question I get. Jen, what type of pain are you talking about? They are all connected. Think about it. When you see that bank account drop, a lot of us might feel that in our gut. We might have elevated breath because the physical and the emotional always go together. I also want to let you know that all pain, it is real, and it is based on the level of threat perceived by the brain. It can be a real threat. It can even be a perceived threat. Here's an example of a real threat. My finances will change after the divorce. Guess what? They did. Here is a perceived threat. I'm going to live in a box. Okay, my nervous system perceives both of these the same and creates an output accordingly. Now, the really good news is that I have a bookkeeper who's so incredibly kind and compassionate. And she said, Jen, if you live in a box, I will make sure it is a very nice box. Now, the best news here is that I don't actually live in a box. So there's this very important next step, and here it is. What is your choice? Which cookie do you choose to create? Michelle, with what we've talked about, do you have any ideas on what is one thing that you might want to change? Do you want to change an ingredient or a belief, or how is it that you would like to rewrite your recipe?
I would say, like so often when I see a really good presentation on health and wellness, you just are reminded me I need to do more yoga. So, and the reason I say that is because it's all those components. There's motion, there's breath and breathing, there's centering yourself. I would say that's what my action item, and it never fails. When I stop doing that as part of my overall health process, I experience back pain and, just a little bit creakier than when I am integrating that, even if it's just a little bit, even if it's a few stretches. So that's my long answer to your short question.
No, I love that. And yoga is one of our evidence-based strategies to power down the nervous system. So I'm glad that you are re-motivated to begin that again. Well, today I am here to offer hope. Hang on, pain ends. For those of you who are experiencing pain and transition challenges, and even for those who you know are struggling with pain, I hope that you'll embrace these strategies and know that if it's making sense, there are many ways to expand your knowledge and your tools beyond today's. Henry Ford tells us, whether you believe you can do a thing or not, you are right. Imagine understanding pain, illness, and life transitions with simple stories. Knowing your options and how to roll with the inevitable changes with clarity and focus. Waking up, taking a big breath, and saying, I've got this. Once again, I am Jen Uschold, and I would be honored to accompany any of you to become chronically pain less for your life of more and creating your own fabulous cookie. Whether it is that you are dealing with pain or life transition, that is a challenge. I've got one final slide for you, and I just would love your feedback if you're willing to give it to me, so that I can continue to make this presentation better and better. If you're willing to scan that QR code, I would appreciate it. Otherwise, I hope you have an amazing day and you got a few tools today.
Thank you, Jen. There are a few questions that I have if you have the time.
I do.
Okay, all right. So it's funny, I was talking to a client very recently and he said, I just don't understand why I'm in the situation I'm in, why I'm in so much pain, have so many health issues, because I took care of myself. I watched what I ate, I was active, and now I'm just in pain all the time and have all these different health conditions. Now, obviously, I don't know what watching what you eat means, because that can mean different things for different folks, right? But I can really understand and empathize with the concept of I did everything right and look at where I am. kind of situation, because I think sometimes I've seen several clients who, whether it's genetics, and different conditions that they're predisposed to, there's some things that are out of their control. But for that type of situation where you're now essentially much more sedentary because everything hurts, how do you move past that? How do you make motion the lotion when motion hurts?
Sometimes we need just a tiny bit of lotion. And I'm going to go back to something you said a moment ago. You mentioned genetics. I don't know if you and your audience is familiar with epigenetics. Epigenetics is a very powerful tool because we all have our genes. We cannot change our genes. But epigenetics simply is how we live our lives. And the way we choose to sleep, eat, manage stress, relationships, all these things influences whether a cancer gene turns on or off, or even chronic pain. So we have so much choice in how we manage our health. And depending on the research you read, it is much less about the actual genetics. And I've read anywhere from 70% to in the mid 90% is due to our life choices. Now, for this particular client, my first thought is the 11 million pieces of information. I would get very curious with him what was going on in his life around the time where he started developing pain. And also, to your point, healthy eating looks good for some and it looks different for someone else. And there are things, some people can tolerate garlic and onions and some cannot. So even though garlic and onions can be a very healthy choice for many of us, sometimes we have to get more curious. What are the pieces of his puzzle? What are the ingredients of his cookie? And what can we introduce so that his nervous system feels safer? The pain is information. We have to get curious. And I had a woman several years ago, her walking tolerance, she began with walking 2 minutes. That's it. And now every year or two, she sends me pictures hiking from Budapest. And a week or two ago, she sent me pictures hiking in Austria. So it can be done. It's a matter of getting curious, knowing what your strategies are, and implementing them in little doses. Because if we push through, we can actually make the nervous system more sensitive, and that causes more pain. When we do nothing, we cause more sensitivity and also more.
Okay, thank you. So essentially, it's really about a customized plan. There's no one size fits all. What works for me may not work for someone else. And it's funny because I've discovered what works for me over the years has changed. There was a point in time, because pain was such a part of my life, that yoga was like my coping strategy. Whereas now I would say that I've realized that I need cardio too. Right. And then of course you need resistance and all these different components, especially as you age, there's more and more that's needed. I have many clients who are, I'm very fortunate that, sometimes I have the grandparents, parents, and adult kids and so on. And I bring this up because pain is not unique to a particular age.
Heck no.
Or stage. Yeah. And as you know, I asked Jen to speak to my son because he's been through quite a painful journey over the last few years, growing like a weed, having surgery related to things, that high growth, and some things that had to be fixed, by an orthopedist, by a surgeon. But at the same time, there are ways to handle it scientifically. When there is an issue that needs to be taken care of, but sometimes the pain lasts longer and you need to know how to cope with it and how to have a holistic approach, not just the medical, but also the mental, also the physical, because physical therapy, which is you are a physical therapist, encompasses all of that. So I guess this is a very long preamble to say, what would you say to those who are healthy, fit and experiencing pain?
Pain is so much more than your tissues. Pain is an output of the brain to protect you. And so we have to get curious about what that protection is. And many people who are healthy and fit, their pain is real. We have to remember that all pain is real. And it may be that they're working too hard to be healthy and fit. I had a client a few years ago, and he's like, I can afford to come see you for one session. So I gave him 2 hours of what we refer to as the fire hose approach. And he had lost a lot of weight. He did this hard work to lose weight. And now he worked out 2 hours a day because he was so afraid to gain weight. But the cost for him was debilitating pain. But yet he still found a way to work out however many days a week. So I just saw him that one time. I happened to see him socially about a year later, and I was like, hey, how are you doing? And he said, great, I am 95% better. I don't know all the pieces of his story, but I want to believe that some of what we addressed in that 2-hour session resonated, and he was able to find a place to do less, which actually allowed him to do more.
That's a great point. It's about balance. It's about finding the right amount, the right fit, and even sometimes the right methods, because what you do in the gym can also matter. I know people who have injured themselves because they were trying to get flat abs.
Yeah.
It's not something that I suffer from. But anyway, flat abs, and just overdid it to the point that they caused other issues.
Yeah, and sometimes the other issues is just massive pain, and your physical structures are still just fine. So it's a hard one to break apart, but it's really important to know that pain does not equal tissue damage, and tissue damage does not equal pain. Think about it. Have you ever had a bruise on your body or a scratch and you didn't know where it came from?
Yes.
That's tissue damage, but no pain because your brain was not worried about you. You were having fun, I don't know, whatever it was you were doing, playing beach volleyball. Now the opposite is also true. People have gorgeous scans and they have debilitating pain. The reason is because pain and tissue damage are not the same thing. If they were, every time we do an amputation for whatever reason, phantom limb pain would not exist. If tissue and pain were the same, we would not have phantom limb pain. For those of you who don't know what that is, some people that have an amputation for whatever reason, they still feel that body part. They might not have a left hand, but they're like, my hand is throbbing. My hand has sharp pain. Their pain is real because it is not sourced in the hand that's not there anymore.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much, Jen. This has been a fantastic presentation, conversation. And I have to say that everything you indicated about education is directly in line with this whole event and this whole conversation, because I do feel that education is empowering, and I feel like that's a core part of my mission, as it seems to be of yours, because when we know more, we can make more informed decisions, and pain is part of life. And I see people in different types of pain in happy times, like retirement, where they're trying to figure out, wait a minute, what's this next phase of life going to be like for me? Sad times like the loss of a spouse or a divorce or other challenges. And then even phases of time, like I'm in the sandwich period of my life right now. And there are times where that is very challenging, to be frank. And so it is important to have tools to help with that. So thank you so much. Because knowledge is power.
Can I say one thing based on what you said? It's a favorite quote. Pain is normal. Living in pain is not. Let's change that.
That's a great way to end. I cannot top that. And I think that's remarkably profound. Thank you so much, Jen.
You are welcome. Thank you.